Hello again, grade 11 IT. So we are back with our database, and I have added player ID 1, 2 and winner ID over here as per what I was going to do. Venue, winner, player 1, player 2, winner, player 1 and player 2, they are going to be the player ID primary keys of the player table. So we're going to link the player to the game table in a one-to-many relationship. So I put player ID 1, player ID 2, because we know that two players play against each other, and then the winner ID is going to be the ID of the player who won, and the draw will be yes or no, true or false. So that'll be the player ID for player 1, player ID for player 2. Now if I look at this table, I've put some players here, player name, and they're from different schools and different teams. Maybe we can make this team B. Oh wait, no, yeah. So you can add many players here. Obviously put in name and surname, and and the full name of the school and whatever. But this is the primary key here, 1, 2, 3 and 4. Now in the game table, player ID 1, 2 and winner ID. So if I open the game table in datasheet view, datasheet view, I'll put in some games. I'll put in the dates, both on the same day in the venue, and you type the year, month and day. I'll put in another one, it'll be 2002, 08, 02, and so this is games that are played on the same thing, but I don't have a player ID. I'm going to have 6 more players, 2 more players here before I can go and put in more. Julie, I don't know, let's make, I don't know, what other, college, and that's maybe team A, and then S, I don't know, and then that would also be college, and then that can be team B. Just putting more players in, otherwise that's 5 and 6, because we only want players to play on one day. So that could be number 5, that could be number 6, as you can see from the player table, 5 and 6, those 2 numbers there, and maybe the winner is number 6. And if there's no winner, then we click the draw there, and we just leave that field empty. So this will work. So, but the thing is, when you go and put in this game table, view, design view, this data type must match the data type of this field here, player ID. So you choose number and long integer, number and long integer, number and long integer, because you want to basically put numbers from this field into these 3 fields like I showed you. And if you go look at our player table in design view, you'll see the auto number is long integer, so you must keep it long integer when you use them in the other table, long integer. So that's very important, otherwise you won't be able to join the 2 tables. So we're going to join the 2 tables now. Let's go and close them. Have to close them first, then we go to database tools, relationships. Now if you do not see anything here, let's just say there's nothing here, okay, just in case, I'm going to delete everything here. I'm going to delete the relationship. Unfortunately I already created it. When you open it the first time, you won't see anything. Let's say you don't even have that. What you do is you go to add tables, so relationship, database tools and relationships, and then you can right click and show table, or you can go to that add table button, right click in this blank area, show table, and click on game, add table and add table. So there we have the two tables now, and we decide that one player is going to play many games on different days. So that is the primary key there, and over here we are going to make copies of it for these three, but we only have to join it to one of them. So I'm going to click on the one with my left mouse, drag and hover over player ID 1, let go, click on enforce referential integrity, make sure these are all fine, player table, player ID in the player table, player ID 1 in the game table, click on create, and there you have it. You don't have to do anything else. Your database is now finished and ready to go. And when you close this, just say save. You can also screenshot it and paste it into, so you go control print screen on your keyboard and paste it into a Word document like I've done here, and crop it, and you have to paste it into your phase 1, I call it phase 1, into your documentation phase. You have to have your ERD diagram there in that Word document for your documentation. Right, now we've got the database sorted. We're going to go to the main program. We opened the main program and you said File, New, ECL Forms Application. You get this. Then you go File, Save, Save, Save. You just do File and Save. Then you know how to save a program. You've got to do the save as, do the first unit, and then you do the project unit. So there's two saves that you have to do all the time. You don't have to rename those units. It will look like this, like you normally create a program and you have your units in your folder. You put it in the same folder as your chess map, your database. Okay, so you must put it in the same folder as your database. So you save your empty program, but now before we can carry on, we have to create a data module. So we go to File, New, and Other. File, New, and Other, Delphi Projects, Delphi Files, Data Module, click OK. Then you have this kind of inverted form. Now the first thing to do is to go to DBGo. Go to oh wait, no, before we do that we must save. We can't leave it as unit 2. It looks terrible. We go File, Save. It's not saved yet, so we save, and there's only going to be one save necessary, and you'll see the computer knows that it must go into the same folder as your program. It will automatically default there, but you must change the name. I'm call it chess data module, one word. Oops. Oh, there it is. Chess data module. Nice long word to describe it. And then click on save. Okay, fine. Alright, I must call it another thing. File, save as. I'm going to call it game, chess games DM, and then save files. Chess games DM. They're sitting over there, the name. So we saved it. Now we're going to go and put some items on it, a whole lot of things. First thing is the connection component. You go to DBGo on the right hand side, find T-ADO connection, click on it and put it on this form. The first thing is now to name that connection component by calling it con whatever. I'm calling it con chess because chess is my database basically. And if you've got con hockey or con whatever games that you want to play, so we click on, we change the name, but now we have to go and do the connection string. Before the connection string, let's make sure the login prompt is false. So we make sure login prompt is false. Then we're going to go to connection string, click the three dots, and then click on build. Then, very important, if you use any other, you will not be able to connect. So you've got to use the top one, jet. Just remember the word jet, and then you know you're safe. Jet, then next, and then we're going to navigate with the three dots again over here to our chess. It automatically goes straight because you've saved your data module in the same folder where your database is, and therefore it automatically opens that, and you'll see your database there, and you click on open. Now we're going to get rid of admin here, and we'll test the connection, and it says OK, and then we're going to delete the path, and then I'm going to click test connection again and click OK. Make sure you do that. That's the reason why we delete the path, so that we can open the program on another device and this won't have a problem connecting, although 9 times out of 10 you still have to go and connect it. But just in case it works for you, it doesn't work for me, but just delete the path and then click OK, and then click OK. But always test the connection first. So now we've got our com chess. Now we've got to put, for each one of these tables, we're going to have an ADO table connection. Okay, for each one of the tables we'll have an ADO table connection. So let's say ADO table, there it is, TADO table, we'll find it. Remember, that is the main one that goes to the database. Now we have the tables, so one for player and one for game, and we're going to click on ADO table 1, and straight away, what are the names of my tables? Yeah, you remember I had it as matches, match. I've changed it to game, because guess what? Access had a big problem with me changing the name of the table. Decided, nah, I don't like the word match. Access didn't want me to connect with it if it was called match, so I had to change it back to game. Access is very fussy, so be very careful. One word only for your table names. One word only for your field names. Just to keep things simple. So we click on ADO table 1, and then we're going to go and change the name first. So we go to the name property, and the prefix for ADO table is TBL. And which table I want to connect to? Player. So I type TBL and player. Then I go and choose the connection property over here, not the connection string, the connection property. There it is, connection property, and I choose con chess. Then I go down and find the table name property and choose player. Then you scroll up and find the active property and make it true. You do all of that for that ADO table component. Now we're going to do the next one, ADO table 2, which will connect to the game table. Now we're going, it was previously called match and now I called it game. Anyway, I called what was game first, then I changed it to match, and now I changed it back to game because this connection didn't like match for some unknown reason. Anyway, ADO table 2. So we click on ADO table 2, go to the name property and type the prefix TBL and game, because it's going to connect to the game table. Then we're going to go to the connection component, not the connection string, the connection component, and choose con chess. Then we go all the way down to the table name property and choose the correct table, which is game in this case because it's called TBL game. Then we go all the way up to the active property and choose true. Now you won't have to do any of that again except for this connection string. You might have to reconnect and setting the active property to true for each of these ADO tables. Right, there's one other thing, there's one more component here that we want to add, and that is an ADO query. So you see the query there, ADO query. I'm going to click on that because you have to have queries in grade 11 in your PAT. So we click on that ADO query, pluck one on there and do the same thing, but we're not going to do active true or anything. We go to the connection property, choose our connection component. We definitely should name it. We go to the name property, and the prefix for a query we use QRY, and I'll just say the word chess because the query chess will be used for all the tables. You don't have to give it a specific table name. We use queries on every single table, and that's all you have to do with this particular one here, but you have to add it there because you have to have queries in your program if you want to get good marks. So connection component and the name, that's all you do with this particular one here, the ADO query component. Now before we go any further, can you see there's, when I click on this place here, this form, you see there's a name property here. You have to change that name so that you can quote. It's like the virtual name of this data module, so I'm going to call it DM chess. Can you see, oops, right, DM chess games, DM chess games, or DM games, for want of a better name. This whole thing, yeah, needs to be selected, and then you go to the name property and give it a name, DM whatever you want to give it. The reason why you have to is because you're going to quote this name here in code. It's like the virtual name of this data module. You're going to quote this DM games in code, DM whatever. But this one over here, chess games DM, that is the name that it's stored on the hard drive. Remember we saved it, I'll show you. There it is, chess games DM. That's the files that we stored on the hard drive. So now we're going to add the last three components, which are data sources, which is the last connection before we go to our Delphi program. And you find data sources right here in data access. There's a data source, and you put one next to each one of these components there, because data source 1 will connect to that one, this one will connect to that one, this one will connect to that one. Now you might think, oh, but why do you have to change names? You have to change names because when you go and connect with Delphi, you want to know which table you're connecting to. So these data sources have to have name changes, and your ADO table components. Very important to name these things as I've done, otherwise your life's going to be miserable. Right, so we click on data source 1, go to the name property. Now the prefix for the data source is DSR, and then which ADO table component do we want to connect to? TBL player. So we type TBL player. Oops. Okay, that's it. And then you choose the data set. The data set property, you choose TBL player. Now if you do it any other way, you are going to get horribly lost and confused. Then we go to the data source 2. The next one, I want to connect it to TBL game, so I'm going to go and change the name first. DSR TBL game, and then I'm going to choose the data set, which is TBL game. Take note how the name is working. DSR TBL game is connected to TBL game. DSR TBL player is connected to TBL player. And this one, guess what, is going to connect to query chess. So for the name we say DSR query chess, and for the data set we're going to choose query chess. And if you've done it all like that, you don't have to worry about that again, ever. The only thing you will ever have to worry about is the connection component, connecting the connection string property over here, and then for each of these TBL components you'd make the active property to true. But you do not change anything about query chess. Query chess you do not make active true, you only have to go and to make sure the connection component is correct. That's all you do with query chess. And then I've shown you the DSR, the data sources. Right, do file save all to make sure everything's saved. Now we're going to our main program, and in the main program we have to quote this in the user section, chess games DM, the hard drive name, the name that our data module is stored as on the hard drive. So you quote it in the user section. So quite easy, all you have to do is read it off there, chess games DM, you just type it in there, do file save all and run, and make sure that it is working. Oops, well have I got errors? Okay, because I had two data modules that I put on previously, so I'm just going to delete this one. And now we can run it and it should be fine. Oh wait, this one as well, let's delete this one. Because I made another data module, and yeah, guess what I did? I actually was recording with the without showing the screen, so all you could hear was my voice, and I had to delete that recording. Terrible. Right, that's besides the point, isn't it? We're now in our main program and we're going to go and we want to see our tables on our form. Now to start off with, guess what we're going to have? A page control. You must have a page control. Please don't use multi-forms. It's very messy, and from my experience a lot of children struggle and their programs don't run properly, and it's not worth it. You can do page control, you'll still get your marks and everything. So page control with tab sheet, so we click on our page control, make sure we have a name for it, and I'm just like PGC, it's easy one to remember, and then we click on it and right click and make 3 tab sheets for each table, 1 extra one for reports and 1 extra one for the start page. So 3 tabs for each table plus 2, so 6, 7, 8. So right click new page, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Right, tab sheet 1, give them names straight away. I promise you, you won't regret it. TBS main. Tab sheet 2, give it a name for, let's say, adding a player. TBS add player. Now why am I saying add player and so on? I'll tell you now. Remember, when we work with data, you add, edit and delete. In other words, insert a player, edit a player, delete a player. We do the same thing for a game. Insert a game, edit a game, delete a game. So it makes sense to have a tab sheet for each one of those operations on the table. Those are the standard operations of data. That's what you're actually doing in Delphi. You're connecting to the database and you are going to insert, edit and delete. But then the 4th tab sheet, or maybe even an extra one, 2 other extra ones you can use for reporting on your table. So what we do with the basic operations of data is to insert, edit and delete data, and then the 4th one is to actually do reporting, queries, etc. So we've got TBS add player. Now I'm going to have a TBS edit player, and then for tab sheet 4 I'll have TBS delete player. And yes, give them big long names, and I know it looks terrible, we're only changing the name property. TBS add, is it a game table? Yes, I think it's a game. Add a game. TBS edit game, and then TBS delete game, TBS delete game, and then the last one I'll just call it TBS reports. And if I want to have another tab sheet, I will. Now you might think, oh, but you're only changing the name. We don't want to see those names at the end of our program. When we finish writing our whole program, we will make the tab visible of each of those tab sheets false. Just to give you a demonstration, if TBS main, if I make the tab visible false, I don't see that tab, but I have to click on it here if I want to actually do anything on it. So it just doesn't work while we're actually doing our program. Tab visible is useful while we are actually writing the code. Maybe we'll need just the main page open, and then visible, and then we can make the other tabs invisible. In other words, tab visible, not visible, tab visible, false, which means the tab will be there, but the actual the sheet will be there, but the actual tab won't be visible. So we'll only get the full effect of that when you see what it looks like. Now TBS main, let's see, what did I do? Okay, so TBS main is there, but for some reason I can't find it. Anyway, this is there. Why is it gone now? Did I delete it? No, I didn't. TBS main. Okay, well this is TBS main. For some reason the tab visible, oh, true. Okay, put it back to true. TBS add player, put that back to true. So So we keep the tabs while we are programming, and then at the end decide whether you want to change the captions or whether you want to make the tab visible false. Now on TVS main, you must remember that tab sheets are quite tricky. You need to click on them on the left hand side to make sure that you are actually working on that tab sheet, so you don't double click. Click on them on the left hand side here in your structure list. This is why the structure list is so important. So we need to be able to see them. Now on the main page we're going to have buttons that go to all the other tab sheets. So let's go and put buttons, and I like to make a panel, use a panel. And by the way, I'm not going to change captions or anything while I program. All I'm going to do is write code and change names of things. You must make sure everything looks pretty, etc. Otherwise you'll lose marks. Now I'm just going to put a whole lot of buttons, 3 buttons on each panel. So this panel is going to represent the one table, and this panel is going to represent the other table. But it's very important that we change the names of each of these things. The panel doesn't have to have a name change. You can get rid of the caption, obviously. I don't need to tell you how to do that. You have to make your program pretty and attractive and usable, but I'm changing names. You also have to have names for all your components. You'll lose marks if you don't put names for everything. So this one is btn go to add player, and you will change the caption to, you know, something that the user will be happy to read. But I'm just changing the names. btn go to edit player, and this button will be btn go to delete player. So you've got all of that set up. Now this button here, this one is going to be btn go to add game. This one will be btn go to edit game. I know you might think it's stupid, but I'm not wasting time with this. You'll see why. This is btn go to delete game. Right, now the last button that we need is one somewhere else, not on the panel, on the main tab sheet. Let's make sure we're on the main tab sheet, TVS main. There it is. This button must be there. Wait, not even there. We mustn't put it there. We must put it off the page control altogether, so that all the other tab sheets can see it. So off the whole page control on the form, and this button is to go back to the main page. btn go to main, so that they can navigate to this tab sheet to go and get to the others. Now we have to put code underneath all of these buttons, which is going to be quite simple. So we double click, go to add player, so we say pgc.activePage tvs add player, and now I'm going to copy and paste this because I'm going to use it in the other buttons. Go to edit player, tvs go to edit player. Well, I'm saying go to because we're going to have other buttons for editing and deleting player, and this one's be tvs go to delete player. Then for this one, tvs go to add game. And this one, double click the button, tvs go to what? Oh, edit game. You see, I saw my name here, the name of the button, so I knew what was going on here, which is why you have to change name. I mean, you have to make sure that you have the right name on your button. I can see the name of the button there, so I know what I'm doing in this button click. Now this one is going to be pgc.activePage equals tvs go to main, what? tvs main. I think I called it tvs main, didn't I? Right, now if I run the program, you'll see how it seamlessly works. Obviously there will be errors, of course. TVS go to add game. TVS add game. TVS add game, not go to add game. Alright, what else? Spelling mistake. TVS delete game. Equal signs there. I just want to demonstrate how this is going to work. TVS delete player. TVS edit game, not TVS go to edit game, TVS edit game. Silly me, I've got to quote the names of the tab sheets. Ooh, I didn't put one for reports, did I? Okay, let's go and put a nice button over here on the main page. Okay, well, let's just go to TVS main. Yeah, we've got button 1 there. Make sure we've got the right name, and then we're going to go to name it. BTN go to reports, and then of course we have to say TVS reports. Right, let's run and see that everything is working. Of course I wrote the wrong name for the tab sheets on each one of these. So go to add player, go to main, go to reports, go to main. So you see the streamlined flow of events there. Right, next thing that we have to do, when we go to each of these tab sheets, we want to view, like for instance in the add table button, add player button, sorry, the add player tab sheet, not button. The tab sheet for adding a player, we want to see the player table. It would be nice to view it in a grid. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to put database grids on each of these tab sheets, and we do that. You click on the, make sure you clicked on the tab sheet that you're busy with, and go to data controls, and there's TDB grid. So we click on TDB grid, and we go and draw a nice grid. Then we don't have to name this grid. Keep it as DB grid 1, but we have to change the data source property. So we go to the left hand side, go to data source, and choose the DSR. Remember I told you to name the data sources? Well, here we are, DSR TVL player. And now you'll see, because the active property is true here in TVL player and the connection is working, that is why we can see the data there. That one's that done. And TVS edit player, get another database grid, draw it over here, and then we're going to go to the data source property and choose TVL player. Now I'm not going to change the database grids of names of these. DB grid 1 is in there, DB grid 2 goes up in number as you add them. Then I'll get another database grid here. This is also the player table, so I'm going to choose the data source property here and choose the DSR TVL player. Then we go to add game. Now this is going to be a different table, same database grid, and then we'll go to the data source property and we will choose DSR TVL game. Can you see the data modules in front of it? DM games dot DSR TVL game. The only reason why we can do this is because we've added the data module in the user section. Chess games DM. That one there we've added in our user section. Right, now we go to edit game, the same thing, database grid. Take note I clicked on the tabs here to actually get to the correct tab sheet. Go to data source property and choose TSR TVL game, and then delete game, highlight, go to the data source property and choose DSR TVL game. Now for reports, we are going to get a DB grid in here. Yes, queries do link to database grids, and we're going to choose the data source for the query component. So we click the data source, click the drop down arrow and choose DSR query component. Now you won't see anything there, but we have it there because we know that when you run queries we will be able to see display in that database grid. Right, so we've done that. Now as you can see, it's very messy, isn't it? Even when we run the program, everything will run and we'll be able to see all of our tables, but the columns of the table, if I go to main and then I go to player, then I should see, but the problem is, can you see how it's the grids are not spaced correctly? Another thing that we need to do is when we run the program, we want it to open to the main page all the time, don't we? So let's go and do that on activate event. On activate, maybe make sure that the page control.active page is tvs main, so then every time you run the program, it'll go to the main page first. That's one other thing. Now, how are we going to sort this out so that when we go to all these tab sheets, we can actually see it nicely aligned on that database grid? Well, that's for the next episode. See you later.